Hey Pre-Calc students, this is Mr. Mitchell, back with some more information, more lessons. So we're going to start talking about linear equations and two variables. Got some notes for you here. Slope-intercept form. Got your slope, your y-intercept, that's what m and b are. And a lot of this should be review from Algebra 2. But still want to make sure we go over it. You have point-slope form. M is a slope. x1, y1 is just a given point. Slope formula, got rise over run, should sound familiar. Parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So an example of that is -2 1/2. They're opposite in sign, and then they're reciprocals. So that should all ring a bell to you. Okay, so we're going to sketch the graph of the linear equation. So we got our first line. So we have our y-intercept of +1, so we go up 1 and put our point. So that means the y-intercept is 0, 1. Our slope is 2, so we're going to go up 2, right 1. We can go up 2, right 1 again. Or we can go down 2, left 1. You can go down and left for positive. I'll try my best to draw a straight line there. You got the points on there. Okay, that's the first one. Next one, we got y equals 2. Well, what's our y-intercept? It's 0, 2. You got a constant. That's your y-intercept when it's y equals. What's our slope? There's no x, but technically isn't there I'm going to write this here, isn't there plus 0x? That means there's 0 slope. A 0 slope line is a horizontal. Oh, that's not a very good line. But it should, that's a little better. A little better. It's a horizontal line. So if it were x equals, that would be a vertical line. That has undefined slope. So just be aware of that. Over here, before we do anything, it's not in y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to have to move the x to the other side. So then our y-intercept is 0, 2. So I can go up 2 and put my point. My slope is -1. That means I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 1, down 1 and to the right 1, or up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1. Then I will draw my line. So there's some examples of graphing. Okay, so we have a word problem with slope. So sometimes it's helpful to draw a picture. If you think about, it's not a very good line. It's supposed to be straight, but you have a wheelchair ramp. And so by code, there's all kinds of building codes, but there's building codes for wheelchair ramps. This is the maximum slope that a wheelchair ramp can be built at. So a ramp that rises 22 inches over 24 feet. Does that meet code? Well, you can't just do 22 divided by 24. That's rise over run, but they're not the same units. So what's 24 feet in terms of inches, or what is 22 inches in terms of feet? Those are your choices. You have to convert one to the other. So which way should we go? Think about that first. Okay, either way, it doesn't matter. You make the decision, but I'm going to take 24 feet and turn that into inches. So how many inches are in a foot? 12. So we've got to take 24 times 12. That's 288 inches. Okay, so if I come over my graph, it's 288 on this side. And again, I'm drawing with a whack-a-mole board, so be gentle on your comments about my penmanship and drawing a straight line. So it's rise over run, so it's 22 over 288. So what does that equal? If you divide that out, what is 22 divided by 288? It's 0.076. That's the slope in terms of a decimal. Well, we could reduce everything and go that route, or we could just turn it into a decimal. What's 1 divided by 12? Isn't that like 8%? 0.8 something? Yeah. It's 0.083. So this slope is less than that. So we're good. It is less than the maximum amount. You can be equal to the slope or less. The answer is no. It is not steeper. It's just a little bit. It's almost. You can have a 7%. It's a 7% grade versus an 8% grade. Grade meaning slope. Okay? All right. Determine the slope of each of these points. So we got to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Right? Y minus y over x minus x. As long as you go the same. I could do 7 minus 5 and negative 2 minus negative 2. That works. So what's this? Negative 2 on the top. And, 0. What's that mean? This is a vertical line. Anytime you have an undefined slope, you've got a vertical line. So then we come here and we'll do 4 minus negative 7 over 3 minus 5. So turn that into addition, it's 11. Subtract, that is negative 2. So negative 11 halves. There's no reason to turn it into a mixed number. You can leave it that way. So that's the slope. And then over here we got negative 3 minus negative 3 over 4 minus 5. I got 0 over negative 1, which is 0. What kind of a line is that? We already saw an example of this. Horizontal line. So every time we see a vertical or horizontal line, we want to make sure we identify it. So writing linear equations, there's a little flow chart here to tell you kind of what to do, depending on what information you're given, will determine what route you should go. If you have 2 points, find the slope first, and then you use your formula. If you have a point and a slope, boom. If you have the, I'm sorry, that was this, point and a slope, here you go. If you have the slope and a y-intercept, you could just use y equals mx plus b. So you got to know what kind of information you're given. So here we're given the slope and a point, so I can either use slope-intercept form or point-slope form. My personal preference, and again, you might have a different preference, I like to use y equals mx plus b. Bring in those parentheses. I just feel like you're asking yourself for some issues. So my slope is 3. My x is 1. I don't know my y-intercept. I got to find it. And my y is 2. So that's 3. Subtract 3. What do you get? Negative 5 is b. So the problem with this problem using this method is some students will say, oh, the answer is negative 5. No, what do we want? We want the equation. So I got to write y equals mx plus b. Y equals 3x minus 5. So I got to make sure I'm writing an equation in y equals mx plus b. I want my slope and I want my y-intercept. Here's my y-intercept, and then there's my slope. So now for this example, kind of going with the flow chart, we're not given 2 points or a slope and a point. We're kind of given a slope and a point, but we have to find the slope first. So we're looking for a parallel line. What did we say about lines that are parallel? They have equal slope. So we got to find the slope of this line first. Well, what is it? Well, we got to solve for y first. So first we got to move the 2x to the other side. So then we have negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 5. And then we got to divide by negative 3. So this equation is y equals, make sure you're careful with your negatives, you're going to go 2/3 x minus 5/3. The minus 5/3 really doesn't mean anything for us because we're actually looking for another line. So now here's my slope. And here's my point. So we can use y equals mx plus b. So we're going to go 2/3 is m. X is 2. I don't know b. And y is negative 1. So then this is negative 1 equals, this is 4/3 plus b. So I got to subtract 4/3 on both sides. So what's -1 minus 4/3? So I got to subtract to take it over there. So if you think about it, this is -3/3, so it's going to be -7/3. You can always use a calculator to help with that, or you can do it working with fractions. So it wants me to write an equation. So my slope is 2/3, and my y-intercept is -7/3. So there's my parallel line. So now over here, I did a little bit of a favor. I gave you the same equation, right? So what was the slope? I'm not going to resolve for y here. I'm just going to write it. I'm just going to write it as an answer. Y equals 2/3 x minus 5/3. If it were a different line, I'd have to resolve for y and find the slope. So what's a perpendicular line? Perpendicular line symbol is an upside down T. The slope is an opposite reciprocal. So if this were negative, it'd be positive, but it is positive, so we have to make it negative, and then you flip it. So there's my slope, and then there's my point, 2, -1. So we're going to do -3/2 times 2 plus b, don't know what it is, and then y is -1. Multiply here, you get -3. And then you add 3 to both sides. So b is 2. So my equation is y equals my slope, -3/2, not the 2/3. I'm using the slope, x plus 2. And that's my perpendicular line that I've got. So there's my perpendicular. And then over here, here's my parallel. Parallel is just 2 vertical lines. So you don't want to write, we're so lazy in math. Math teachers, mathematicians were lazy. Instead of writing the word parallel, we're going to write 2 lines. Instead of writing the word perpendicular, we're going to write a T, upside down T. We want to do that. And you'll see that along math. The more and more math classes you take, the more you're going to figure out that we created as many shortcuts as we possibly could. So if you have questions, please ask. You'll be working on assignment next. And good luck.